5 founding members back in 1960. The UAE, the 7th largest oil exporter in the world. It appears that Iran, a big reason for the UAE to be leaving. Now, as far as negotiations with Iran going, we've heard from
what the UAE is trying to do is they're trying to control their oil production. So actually, this actually might be a good thing for, well, the global oil supply, because they want control over their production. That means, I guess, they want to produce more, thus pushing more into the oil supply, thus bringing down prices. So them leaving OPEC isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's more of a good thing for them and for the global economy.
Trump that he's unhappy with the negotiations going on right now. Recall just over the weekend, the president canceled the trip by his special envoys, Steve Witkoff, Jared Kushner, going to Pakistan to re-engage with the Iranians. And just a reminder for our viewers, Bill, about what President Trump's red lines are in these negotiations. End all uranium enrichment, dismantle the enrichment facilities, hand over that highly enriched uranium, end funding for terrorist proxies, fully open the strait, no more charging tolls, shut down the toll booth. Now, in an exclusive interview with our own Trey Ying, Secretary of State Marco Rubio explained why Iran has closed the strait.
They don't just seek to dominate Iran, they seek to dominate the region. And imagine that with a nuclear weapon. Look what they've done with the Straits. Great example. The Straits has been—
Yeah, but let's be real, Rubio. This would have never happened if we didn't preemptively strike them. They only closed the strait because we started this conflict with them. That's the only reason why we're here. That's why everybody's main point about, well, everybody's main point every time Trump complains about the strait, or anybody in the administration complains about the strait being closed, is that, well, it wasn't like that before the war. I'm be honest with you guys. February 28th, before the war, it was open, and it was open every time before that. So it's kind of crazy how now we just gave Iran a card that we're, well, pretty much complaining about.
Basically the equivalent of an economic nuclear weapon that they're trying to use against the world. And they're bragging about it.
Now, while hundreds of ships remain at anchor stuck in the Persian Gulf behind me, the first LNG carrier, liquefied natural gas, recently transited the Strait of Hormuz since the war began 2 months ago. She left from a port here in the Emirates. Now, not only is the Gulf important to the world's energy industry, as we know and is documented, it's arguably more critical to the global fertilizer industry. 30% of the world's fertilizer trade passes through the Strait of Hormuz. Its closure has affected farmers across the world, including in the United States. And as the blockade is now more than—
Yeah, within a couple months, we're going to be seeing that in our food price. So yes, when food prices go up by about, I don't know, 5 to 10%, yeah, you know why? It's because the Strait of Hormuz is closed and people can't get their fertilizer. And guys, listen, to make sure to double tap that screen and like the video, guys. Appreciate the support, by the way. But let's make sure we're double tapping that screen. Any question, comment, jokes, or disagreements, you can just super chat that in. All right, let's go.
2 weeks old. Iran's storage tanks are nearing capacity, Bill, and analysts say it could be 1 to 3 weeks before Iran is forced to shut down oil production and perhaps cause permanent damage to its oil-producing industry. Certainly something the White House is watching closely, and hope is why it brings Iran back to the negotiating table.
Okay, and we are too. Good to have you back in the region, Lucas Tomlinson in Dubai today. Thank you, Lucas. Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube.
Oh, guys, and I do look at the chat, like, just to let you know, but I would prefer you to super chat in question, comments, or disagreements in. But if I catch it, I'll answer it. I'm a nice guy. But all right, guys, let's get over to the next video.
President Trump with an update this morning after Iran proposed a deal to open the Strait of Hormuz if the United States holds off on nuclear negotiations. Talk about a sweetheart deal. Well, the president's not pleased with the offer and believes Iran isn't negotiating in good faith. Last hour,
well, actually, the problem is Iran has had this position. They've had the position that they're not going to talk about ending their nuclear enrichment program. They said, we'll give up our 60% enrichment and we'll have it watered down. But what we won't do is give up enrichment altogether. And this is pretty much what they're saying. And Iran's proposal is like, look, we can go back to the same deal where, you know, you lift the blockade, we'll open up the strait and everybody's happy. But Trump's not happy with that. He says, no, I'm not lifting this blockade unless you give up your uranium and give up your nuclear enrichment program. And, well, they're pretty much telling us no. So this is why I say we're in a stalemate when it comes to negotiations.
Posted, Iran has just informed us that they are in a state of collapse. They want us to open the Hormuz Strait as soon as possible as they try to figure out their leadership situation, which I believe they will be able to do.
They're just gonna
Explanations,
lie.
right? Here's Secretary.
Wow. I'm sorry, guys, but I'm gonna be real with you. There is no leadership situation going on in Iran. If you really think we're gonna sit here and wait for 2 weeks and think that the Iranian leadership just gonna collapse out of nowhere, I'm sorry, but that's just not happening. We will be waiting a very long time. Well, we'll be waiting decades to be real with you. So when Trump sits here and says that, oh, they have a leadership situation, no, they don't. The only reason we're saying that is because we're trying to sell to the American people that, oh, that they didn't want to close down the strait. They having leadership problems. When no, we didn't abide by our part of the deal, so they're closing down the strait. Now we're trying to confuse the American people and spin it as if there's confusion within the leadership, and there is none.
Secretary of State Marco Rubio.
Much as I wish there were.
I hope that in the aftermath of this conflict, the whole world's eyes have been opened to the threat Iran poses. Again,
guys, and if you want to know how I know, well, the guy who runs the Iranian parliament pretty much says that, well, no, the only reason we close the strait is not because we have dysfunction in our leadership, is because you guys didn't abide by your part of the agreement by removing the naval blockade. This has been said by Pakistan and Iran. So, yeah. And of course, you know, even our own negotiators came back and said, yeah, they said if we remove the naval blockade, they'll open the strait. Trump said, no, I don't want that deal. I want them to actually get to the table about their nuclear enrichment, and then we can talk about opening or, you know, letting go of the blockade.
Want to do with the world with a nuclear weapon what they are doing now with oil. They want to hold the world hostage so they can do whatever they want. That's unacceptable.
And we have new information from a maritime tracking firm that we watch and show you. And you can see dramatically how the U.S. blockade is squeezing Iran's oil industry and therefore the money coming in.
I'm so weak. First off, Iranian fleets are still going through, and this is what they're not telling you. Yes, Iranian shadow fleets are still making it through the strait. So that overpiling of oil actually is not going to happen. Like I said, they're selling you guys a fantasy for some reason. Like, oh, it's going to collapse any day now. All right. Well, then why did 20 shadow fleets go through? And what do you think those 20 shadow fleets had? Iranian oil, and it was going to China. Now we managed to actually turn some of these around, but this is how we found out about the Iranian shadow fleets. So to sit there and say that, oh, they're going to be stocked up on oil and the pipes are going to burst, is like, no, actually, they're still getting their oil out there. And Iran was already going through economic turmoil when we crashed their currency in like December, which led to the protests in January. And that didn't even get a regime change. And here's the thing, the IRGC already said they're willing to work for no pay or half pay. And these guys are literally fighting for the sovereignty of their country. Like, a paycheck don't matter right now. I would hope you guys would understand this.
Iran could reportedly run out of storage capacity within 12 to 22 days. Daily shipments have fallen to about 567,000 barrels, a massive decline from 1.85 million last month. Production could be cut by 1.5 million barrels a day by mid-May. And that's not just big money on those days. Long range, that means...
And here's the most idiotic, and this is why this is idiotic, because, all right, guys, so who else is going to be affected from this blockade? Who else has been affected by this blockade? Yes, like the entire Eastern Hemisphere and the people in the United States have all been affected by this blockade. Actually, everybody around the world has been affected by this blockade. So the longer this goes on, the worse it gets for the global economy and the higher prices we're going to see when it comes to energy, gas, and that's going to get translated into other products as well. So, like I said, to sit here and act like this is only affecting Iran is idiotic. Like, the global economy needs to straight open today. But I mean, as Trump says, don't rush me.
That the wells get shut in because they won't be pumping as much to take the oil out of the ground and put it on ships and keep everything moving. It is an economic disaster for them. Brian Yennis, national correspondent. Brian.
And Harris, the Kepler analysis predicts that it'll take about 3 to 4 more months for Iran to really see an impact on its oil revenues from this U.S. blockade of Iran.
Make sure to double tap that screen, like the video, guys. If you have any questions, comments, jokes, or disagreements, I'll be happy to read it out loud and engage with it. Just $2 and up. And you know what's funny? The people who say I don't know what I'm talking about just say it and never really give an explanation. Because honestly, no, I know what I'm talking about. You just don't like hearing the truth because you want to see me, or you want to see somebody cheerlead for the USA. And here's the thing, I'll do that when it's time, but right now we're not really getting anything we want out of this conflict. So I'm sorry for telling you the truth, but this is it.
Iranian ports. But the president says that this blockade has been, quote, unbelievably effective. U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent writing on X, quote, Iran's creaking oil industry is starting to shut in production thanks to the U.S. blockade. Pumping will soon collapse. Gasoline shortages in Iran next. The question now is whether the president is willing to continue the blockade until Iran's economy collapses, perhaps forcing them into a deal, or whether the president will resume military strikes. Iran International reports Iran's Supreme National Security Council held a meeting concerned about its economy. Quote, officials believe mounting economic hardship driven by rising prices, unemployment, and damage to key industries such as petrochemicals and steel could become the main trigger for renewed protests. Secretary of State Marco Rubio.
Y'all listening to Iranian International still? The same guys that came out with the 40,000 dead protesters hoax that said that they had classified documents that they never proved that they had or showing any proof of. Those guys you're going off of? The guy that's the media company that don't show their work at all? Okay, Fox. Yeah, y'all tripping. So I want you guys to understand this already happened. We already destroyed their currency. That's why the protesters popped off in January and it didn't work. So to try this again and pretend like it's going to work is insane. I'm sorry, but it didn't work in Iran the first time. And that's when we put Mossad agents on the ground and CIA, and it still didn't work. We put guns in the hands of protesters. We're not even doing that this time. Instead, we're dropping bombs, on targets that, these same protesters that was going out in the street are getting caught up in and killed. So we're kind of taking out the people that we need to protest in a way. So it's kind of funny how they still have this idea that protesters can be renewed.
Steel could become the main trigger for renewed protests. Secretary of State Marco Rubio told Fox that Iran's deeply fractured leadership is a roadblock for a peace deal and that any deal with the U.S. must prevent Iran from getting a nuclear bomb.
Yeah, I think they're serious about figuring out how can they buy themselves more time. We can't let them get away with it. They're very good negotiators. They're very experienced negotiators.
I'm sorry, and guys, I really want you to understand the common sense of this, or just the logic. So if Iran's, is in danger of, being overfilled up on oil, then why didn't they come have a ceasefire a week ago? Think about it. Iran knows their situation fully. They know their situation better than we know their situation. So to sit there and refuse a ceasefire while knowing you're under this economic stress, it doesn't make logical sense. But what does make logical sense is that one, let's be real, there's no type of disruption in the leadership, and two, what's going on over there on Karg Island can't be as serious as they're claiming it to be. Why? Because shadow fleets are still making it through, carrying Iranian oil, so that stock up of oil isn't really happening. And I would advise you to look into this. Look at the Iranian fleets that made it through. That was carrying oil. So this overstock up of oil that they're talking about is actually still getting through. And we've even admitted to this. So I'm sorry, but we're saying we're making them, we're pretty much chokeholding them, but we've already approved to ourselves that they're able to make it through the Strait of Hormuz through these shadow fleets and go straight to their top buyer, China.
We have to ensure that any deal that is made.
Oh, guys, double tap that screen, like the video, guys. Appreciate the support, by the way, but let's get more people on the conversation by double tapping that screen. If you have any questions, comments, jokes, or disagreements, I'll be happy to read it out loud and engage with it through Super Chat. Oh, and also, what's going on, Josh?
Any agreement that is made is one that definitively prevents them from sprinting towards a nuclear weapon at any point.
Meanwhile, Israel is continuing airstrikes in southern Lebanon against Hezbollah. The IDF says it struck more than 50 Hezbollah-linked sites targeting weapons.
No, actually, somebody asked a good question. They was talking about, the UAE getting out of OPEC. And actually, well, no, UAE is actually just looking out for themselves. And this actually helped the global economy because they want to take off the production restrictions that OPEC has them under. AKA, they want to produce more oil to make more money for themselves. And if they're producing more oil and pushing that into the global economy, then that does actually bring down energy prices and gas price. So that actually could work out for us. UAE is actually being kind of clutch.
Manufacturing and storage facilities, including.
But that does mean that they probably will be using different currencies, which is leading them further to de-dollarization. So that's the bad part.
Underground complex. Harris, the Iranian-backed militant group Hezbollah, continues firing rockets and drones into Israel, threatening a fragile ceasefire between Israel and Lebanon, which could have an impact on the U.S.-Iran negotiations. Harris?
Ryan Yanis, excellent report.
Oh, and shout out to my man Josh for sending a clap and seal for 250. Appreciate the support.
As always, that was such great information, and we will watch it all and report. Thank you.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox.
All right, though. Let's go ahead and go down the media feed here. All right, let's get to it.
The political violence and rhetoric has got to stop. And that's something President Trump said right after the incident on Saturday night. When you have reporters, when you have media just being overly critical and calling the president horrible names for no reason and without evidence, without proof, it shouldn't surprise us that this type of rhetoric takes place.
And that was Todd Blanche, the acting Attorney General, yesterday. Saturday shooting at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, prompting more calls to end political violence and the rhetoric fueling it. Democratic Congressman Ro Khanna is pushing for a bipartisan commission to end political violence, and he joins us now. Congressman, how would this look? How would this go forward? You going to analyze it? Are you going to set up a criteria or a marching orders or a to-do list?
Well, it's first an acknowledgement that political violence is out of hand, that it is affecting people.
I mean, it sure is. I mean, look, man, the Dems don't stop with the outrageous rhetoric and calling Trump a Nazi and all this good stuff with no real good comparison to Hitler and no real good comparison to Nazis at all either. But hey, they'll say it. They'll say it to inspire other people to, I guess, go out there and try to take out Trump, which is crazy because I have my disagreements with Trump, but it's never going to be, oh, yeah, I need to go out there and kill this man. That's absolutely insane. But hey, like I said, some people do have that extreme rhetoric about Trump, and that's why we say they have TDS. I mean, and here's the thing. We don't say all of you Dems have TDS just for disagreeing with Trump. But when you're sitting there calling them the Antichrist, Satan, I mean, making all types of sexual jokes about him. I mean, come on now, guys. Like, well, what do you think we're going to call you? Like, that just sounds crazy to sit there and just be so deranged about somebody that you're willing to make all these types of jokes. And it's like I said, I understand disagreeing with the man, but assaulting him, sexual parts, his wife, family members, like y'all go too far at a certain point. And Trump, I ain't gonna act like Trump don't go too far from damn self, but y'all claim that y'all better than this man, but you're lowering yourselves to his level. So, you might want to reconcile with that. All right.
We can't let Iran have a nuclear weapon. So this should have been done by previous presidents. It should have been done for years. It'll come to an end very soon, and we're going to be very victorious.
And this is what Trump don't understand, because this man has been completely lied to. The reason why other Trumps, well, I mean, not other Trumps, but other presidents never got into it or ran over their nuclear capabilities because, well, they actually listened to our CIA. They listened to our intelligence who were saying that Iran does not have a nuclear weapons program. They do not plan on making a nuke. They're living under a religious fatwa. So that means they see building a nuke as a sin against God. So there was no chance of Iran getting a nuke, and they haven't even shown, well, honestly, the only time they really shown a progression towards a nuke is when we pretty much invoke acts of aggressions upon them, like getting out of the JCPOA, putting sanctions on them, making the IRGC a terrorist group, killing General Qasem Soleimani. We did all of that from 2018 to 2020. And then in 2021, that's when they reached 60% enrichment. But before all of those acts of aggressions, Iran was actually, no, they weren't enriching all the way at 60%. And in the JCPOA, we had verifiable proof, eyes on the ground, that they were only enriching at that 3.67%, according to the IAEA.
For years, It'll come to an end very soon, and we're going to be very victorious.
Today, President Trump.
Oh man, and shout out to my man Jonathan. He sent a gold coin for 10 jewels. Appreciate the support, my man.
Will reportedly meet with his national security team on Iran. So that meeting is expected to take place in the Situation Room, which sounds like a good place for that. And it comes after the president canceled his team's Saturday trip to Pakistan for a second round of talks. Tehran has reportedly submitted a new proposal to reopen the Strait of Hormuz without any concessions on its nuclear program. Matt Finn is in Dubai. And Matt, as I understand it, the Iranians want to take the whole nuclear issue off the table and negotiate that at a later time.
Pretty much.
Yeah, Dana, that's been a real sticking point throughout all these negotiations. The U.S. blockade on Iranian ports is entering its third week here in the Persian Gulf. And now Iran is reportedly willing to relinquish its control on the Strait of Hormuz, but it doesn't want to meet U.S. demands on its nuclear program. Axios reports Iran is willing to stop its attacks and demands on the Strait of Hormuz, wants to postpone talks about its nuclear program until a later date. Now, President Trump says the U.S. is not willing to budge on preventing Iran from getting a nuclear weapon. U.S. negotiators don't need to travel around the world to even discuss the matter. The ball is in Iran's court.
If they want to talk, they can come to us or they can call us. You know, there is a telephone. We have nice secure lines, although.
So pretty much like I said, I mean, Iran's willing to open up the strait, but Trump doesn't want to release the blockade because he wants them to come to the table about their nuclear enrichment. Iran is telling them, no, we're not doing that. And like I said, Iran's pretty much saying that, yo, we have a right to enrich. We're part of the non-proliferation treaty, so we do have a right to enrich. So, I mean, and that is true. They are. And it's kind of crazy how we're getting on them about their nuclear capabilities. But hey, I mean, Israel, not a part of the nuclear proliferation treaty, and has illegal nukes. Like that, they're not allowed to claim that they have, or we'd have to stop funding them because, well, they're not a part of the proliferation treaty and they'd be violating it. So, hey, it is kind of crazy to judge one and not the other. But hey, that's just me.
I'm not sure any telephone line is secure, frankly, but we have secure lines, and if they want, we can talk. But we're not sending people to travel.
Hey, shout out to my man Jonathan again, sending a clutch for 30 jewels. Appreciate the support, my man. And guys, make sure to double tap that screen, like the video, guys. Appreciate the support. Any question, comment, jokes, disagreements, feel free to super chat that in.
18 hours.
The president told Fox he canceled the U.S. delegation trip that was planned for Saturday because Iran proposed a peace deal that did not meet U.S. requirements. Now, since then, the Iranian foreign minister, Arachi, is blaming the U.S. for its approach and what he calls excessive demands.
And here's the thing, guys. This is what makes, the administration look bad. The fact that we were selling this to the American... Look, the Trump administration was selling to the American people that these guys were crawling and begging for a ceasefire. Now they're telling us to go kick rocks, and this is what we're talking about. Like, yeah, when it comes to our nuclear enrichment, don't even mention that. We're here to talk about and open up the strait. When they're able to set demands like that, it kind of lets you know where we're at with this war and how much leverage we truly have. If they're still out here making demands like this, and once again, still able to close the Strait of Hormuz, because we can't force it open.
Developments have occurred in the negotiations. The Americans' approaches caused the previous round of talks, despite the progress that had been made, not to reach its objectives because of the excessive demands they made and the incorrect approaches they adopted.
Now, in a sign that Pakistan is letting go of the idea that it may host more talks in the near future, the fortified security perimeter that was in place to protect the location of the negotiations, well, that perimeter has now been lifted. Dana, Bill?
Right, thank you.
Yo, Pakistan's like, all right, bro, we give up. Like, we give up. We don't know what to do. It's like we brought y'all here. We gave y'all flowers, gave y'all a red carpet runway, treated you to some nice food. We still can't get a deal between you guys. They're like, we're done. You got it. I mean, we thought we got something with the ceasefire, but then America turns around and don't want to lift the blockade. We're done. We can't do anything. So, hey, Pakistan, we appreciate you for trying.
So much. Hopefully more to come. Thank you.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on.
All right, now let's get over to the UAE. Yep, the United Arab Emirates quits OPEC and OPEC Plus.
Emirates has announced that it's going to withdraw from the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries. That includes the bloc's broader alliance, OPEC+. Now, that move comes as Gulf countries face unprecedented economic disruption after the US and Israel war on Iran. The UAE has released a statement saying this decision aligns with the UAE's long-term strategic economic vision and the development of its energy sector. It's also driven by national interests and the country's commitment to actively contributing to meeting the urgent needs of the market, stemming from...
Just like I said, they're pretty much removing themselves out of it to get out of the restrictions of production so they can start producing more. Because, I mean, let's be real, though. They've also got some damages to fix in their country as well. So they need to start really making more oil sales than they're allowed to do.
Disruptions in the Arabian Gulf and the Strait of Hormuz, which impact supply dynamics. The stability of the global energy system depends on the availability of flex.
That's actually a good question, Jonathan. I ain't gonna lie. He's like, do you think NATO will stand without the U.S.? You know, they'll try, but if Russia actually threatens NATO, they're cooked because they don't have the backing of a superpower to protect them. So it's either, and this is the scary reality, if we leave, then it's either they dismantle and, you know, each country start focusing on their individual military power, or they push more towards China to protect them from Russia. And I mean, that might actually work out for them because Russia's be like, oh, well, my allies protecting you is damn near like, you know, we're running you guys. So we'll see how that all works out. But I don't think these NATO countries are going to be so gun-ho into rushing into war with Russia if we leave. They might either have to get down with China or dismantle and focus on their own individual military power. And if they still want to go at Russia, that'll be up to them. I mean, it'll be dumb, but hey, they got, you know, sovereignty. They got their free will, which would be pretty stupid still, but I'm not going to lie. The way these European countries been talking, it sounds like that's what they want to do. Well, not European, but NATO countries.
Flexible, reliable, and affordable suppliers. Let's bring it Al Jazeera's Dominic Kane. He's live for us in Berlin. What are we to make of that statement, Dominic?
On the face of it, it's something that really concerns the United Arab Emirates. Why should people in Europe really be concerned about it? Well, for several simple reasons. This continent is already experiencing a certain degree of concern at the governmental level about the supply of oil and other fuels. Several different countries in different ways have been intimating they fear a shortage of different kinds of oil cropping up in the course of the next few months. Certainly the Swedes were the latest to express a degree of concern. Their economy minister was speaking precisely about the topic today, saying that jet fuel is something to really be concerned about. So when you then bring it back to the stated reasons for that departure of a founder country, as my colleague was just alluding to, then you get the sense that here in this continent, at least, there's great concern, as I was saying. And why does it matter in this continent? Well, OPEC is based in Vienna, in Austria, and they will be meeting, OPEC and OPEC Plus will be meeting in Vienna tomorrow, where on the face of it, it will be the last time where the emissary, the ambassador from the UAE will take their seats and look around the table at the other members and consider, well, I will be leaving there. But from Friday, no more UAE representation in OPEC or in OPEC Plus, organizations that the UAE has been involved in.
And the problem with that, like I said, is like, you know, they can add more oil to the oil supply and bring down prices, but they'll also be dealing with other currencies as well. Like, you know, the Chinese yuan. And they've already admitted that they're ready to do that. But I didn't think they were going to get out of OPEC as well. I mean, that's a bit of a surpriser to me. But all right, though, let's go ahead and get into it. UAE ditches OPEC. Let's see what Breaking Point got to say.
And we have some significant breaking news this morning, speaking to the economic damage and the way that's already reshaping the globe.
Let's go ahead and put this up here on the screen. Just broke as we were recording. full statement. The United Arab Emirates is saying that it will officially leave the OPEC cartel on May 1st, not just OPEC, but OPEC plus. We're going to go and put their statement up here, and I will read from it. They say the UAE has today announced its decision to exit the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries and plus effective May 1st. The decision reflects UAE's long-term strategic and economic vision, evolving energy profile, including accelerated investment in domestic energy production. The decision follows a comprehensive review of UAE's production policy, and its current and future capacity is based on our national interests and our commitment to contributing effectively to meeting the market's pressing needs. Sovereign responsibility in a new...
AKA, they're getting out of OPEC to increase their production because, one, they need to sell more to actually start repairing some of their infrastructure. And two, they see that as low-key holding them back. And three, they've already been signaling this through their, admission that they're going to start going through, Chinese yuan. They're going to start dabbling in other currencies. And when I heard that, I was thinking that they might make this move as well. Because not only do they take the production limitations off, but they can now dabble in other currencies while upping their production in oil. I mean, it works out all for them, but it doesn't work out for us because it kind of leads to the de-dollarization of the dollar, in the UAE actually. So I don't know how much dollars are they still going to be willing to use for the oil transactions? Because one of the main reasons they're doing this and dealing in the Chinese yuan is because they're running low on dollars because of this conflict, actually. So this conflict is one of the reasons why UAE is moving out of OPEC.
Energy age. They say while near-term volatility, disruptions of the Arabian Gulf and the Strait of Hormuz continue to affect supply dynamics, underlying trends point to sustained growth in global energy demand over the medium to long term. Yeah, sure it does. A stable energy system depends on flexible, reliable, and affordable supply. And they say, following its exit, the UAE will continue to act responsibly, bringing additional production to market in a gradual and measured manner, aligned with demand and with market conditions. Now, you can read this in whatever corporate speak that you want. This is a titanic move. The UAE, I have the numbers here in front of me, is roughly between 10 to 13% of total OPEC output. It is also one of the very few countries in OPEC that has spare capacity, which allows...
guys, make sure to double tap that screen and like the video, guys. Let's get more people in on the conversation by double tapping that screen, and subscribe to the channel while you're at it by hitting that icon above. All right, let's keep it going.
Them to fluctuate the amount of production. It is pretty obvious, I think, from this statement, they want to pump a lot more oil than necessarily OPEC and them want to do to flood the market and to get as much dollars in their pockets as, or reals or whatever, dollars, real, yuan, crypto. I think they're probably taking it all at this time. But I mean, the reason why this is so important.
That's why they're increasing their oil production so they can take in other currencies.
Important is it is the biggest, I think, sign yet of what the inevitable 40th order consequences of war always wrought. A new world order, a new empire, and here a significant chink in the armor of one of the, OPEC, one of the most successful oil cartels in the history, or one of the most successful cartels in the history of mankind, in their ability to control energy production, oil production, the price of oil. It's geopolitically massively important. We learned all of that during the embargo back in the 1970s. So just looking at this in its face, the UAE is charting a very interesting course, which will dramatically change the entire, way that things work in the Middle East. You have the UAE here, which accepted IDF soldiers on its own soil during the course of the war. Iron Dome systems. They're now leaving OPEC, maybe at the behest of the United States or not. I'm really not sure exactly how that is working, but they're charting their own type of course. They went all in really on the Iran war, and I think they lost. And so now they have to really probably just continue to go all in and maybe sell as much oil as humanly possible to try and salvage their image, Dubai airport, the city of Dubai. They need to restore some sense of normalcy, but they've also gone so hard against the Iranians that they need to finish the job. I don't know exactly everything that they're thinking. Obviously, I'm just reacting to this in real time, but
I mean, bro, not only is their country getting hit by drones, but some of their energy infrastructure needs to be repaired. These buildings need repair, and that's going to take money that they're probably running low on because the strait is closed. So they got to get creative here. And I mean, I understand it. You got to look out for their own self-interest. Even if it means stepping out of our self-interest.
All the oil analysts are reacting to this as like a major holy shit moment from what we can see.
Yeah, well, there's a lot to think about and to speculate about here. One thing to say very clearly is we knew UAE was under a significant amount of financial pressure already because they'd already come to us and said, hey, we may need this currency swap line, which the, Trump and Besant et al. Have seemed to be willing to offer them. And the reason why is because they don't want them to start dumping treasuries into the market or dumping, these, Gulf Arab nations, UAE in particular, they hold a lot of US assets of all sorts. So if they start having to sell off their US held stock portfolio, well, that could crash the market. And God knows, the rich people who support Donald Trump, and he's, watching the markets very closely, they don't want that. So we knew that UAE was under this financial pressure. We've been talking since effectively day one of this war, the way that the war is so devastating for them because so much of their attempt to diversify beyond being, an oil-backed nation was this branding of Dubai, of Abu Dhabi. And that is something that once it's hit, it may be impossible to bring back. So I think it's a sign of the financial pressure. You're right.
Yeah, people will never feel safe there again. A lot of people went to Dubai because, America protects here. We got that American missile defense system, man. You don't got to worry about everything. You don't got to worry about anything. But Iran proved that, well, that can't save you. That won't protect you. And we can easily get through that. And we can hurt your economy by shutting down the Strait of Hormuz. They have proved that, if America can't control Iran, then we can never really know true safety. And America has proved that we cannot control Iran. Well, or really, we can't contain them.
It could be that the U.S. told them, we want you to leave OPEC and, produce as much oil as you possibly can. That is also, if that's the case, that's an indication of how much the U.S. is feeling the squeeze as, capacity has been and a billion barrels of oil taken off the market because of the restrictions in the Strait of Hormuz. So that would be an indication of how much pressure the U.S. is feeling. But, if you think about it more broadly, look, this is very obvious, but what's the reason why anyone participates in a cartel? Because it's guaranteed over the long run to be more profitable. So it's an indication that they have decided they're in a desperate enough situation. They need to deal with the short term and try to pump out as much oil as possible and try to get as much as they can right now versus prioritizing the long run profitability. Because in the long run, obviously that sort of cartel collaboration, whole reason you do it is to increase the profitability, control the market in a way that is beneficial to all of the participants.
Hold on, bro. I got some more bad news for you guys. This is some old bull. All right, guys. So oil prices could pretty much fall after this right here, but it's not in a good way. Okay, guys, you're not going to like how Iran brings in more, oil to the oil supply. Iran is looking to ship oil via rail to China. So F the shadow fleets, because those are actually, because since we found out about the shadow fleets, we've been better at catching them before they get through the blockade. Now they're going we'll just do it by train. But let's get into it. This is coming from Fox News, and they're pretty much quoting a Wall Street Journal article. So let's get right into it, and let's see what they're talking about.
Lonsky joins me now. So, John, so far, the spike in oil prices hasn't really spilled over into the core inflation that is taking away food and energy. And that the Fed does seem to still think that it's something that you can look through, that it's not going to be long-term affecting the overall economy, to which you say what?
Yeah, and I think the Fed and the markets expect that the United States will succeed at getting Iran to curtail their development of nuclear weapons, open up the Strait of Hormuz, and as a result, we'll see oil prices come down rather rapidly once this is achieved. Now, the impossible thing for me to do, for anybody, is to predict exactly when Iran will agree to ceasing the development of nuclear weapons.
You can't predict what crazy people are going to do next.
Precisely.
I mean, that's the problem. However, there are futures markets, and they do see this steep drop off in the.
Hold on, there's even reports that China's building secretly build a secret railway to Iran. Okay, guys, we got a problem here. Yeah, we got a problem.
And prices coming down as soon as something is resolved.
That's true. That's very correct. I want to add something else that I think is important. Today, we had the average retail price for gasoline came out. It was $4.17 a gallon. Well, that's up from maybe $3 per gallon we had a couple months ago. But the reality is that price for gasoline is still well under its 2002 high of more than $5 per gallon that we had for a couple of months under Joe Biden's energy policy.
Now, is that the real price? Because when you factor in inflation, it was actually higher than that.
Yeah, and I want to add something else. We look at the price of a gallon of gas as a percent of the average wage. Right now, it's at about 12%. Back in 2022, it was much higher, 16, 17%. And the last time we had a real recession, not a COVID recession, the Great Recession, 2008, 2009, the price of gasoline was approaching 20% of the average wage. We're well under that.
I want to get you on the Fed because now that Senator Tillis has pulled back his hold on Kevin Warsh's nomination, and there will be, presumably now he will become the Fed chairman once the Senate starts to take a vote on all this. What do you think the new Warsh Fed will look like?
I think the new Warsh Fed is going to go out of its way to make sure that we have price stability. It may put a little more emphasis on price stability than having full employment. But on the other hand, if the economy were to weaken significantly, the Warsh Fed will be quick to go ahead and cut rates. I want another important fact, very important fact. The Warsh Fed is not going to have the Federal Reserve get involved in matters related to DEI, or
Thank
whatever.
goodness.
ESG.
That's not
So that's
its role.
off. Yeah,
Good.
that's gone. Their function is price stability, and full employment. These other matters don't.
And one thing we know that Warsh wants to do is to work down that portfolio, the $6.7 trillion portfolio that the Fed has, which they've used essentially to manipulate markets. It started, some people go way back to 2009 when it started, but it really increased during the pandemic. He wants to get rid of that portfolio. How will that affect markets?
Well, Warsh is going to take every opportunity to go ahead and reduce the Federal Reserve's holdings of Treasury securities. He may not want to do it right now because we do have a situation where Treasury bond yields are a bit on the high side compared to what's taking place in the underlying economy. He doesn't want to do anything to push mortgage yields higher at this point in time.
Right.
But when that opportunity arises, he's going to be quick. His Fed will be quick to take advantage of it.
We should mention about $2.5 trillion of that portfolio are mortgage-backed securities. So that might affect housing in a difficult way once he begins to draw it down.
My own personal opinion is that housing is going no place until we get that 30-year mortgage yield well under 6%.
Absolutely.
And that means that we have to have maybe the 10-year Treasury yield drop by at least half a percentage point from where it currently resides. Unfortunately, when I look at the outlook for the 10-year Treasury yield, most believe that the 10-year remains above 6% well into 2027.
John Lonsky, a lot of stuff there. Thank you very much. We're going to all have to digest it.
All right, guys. So during those 4 minutes, I was pretty much looking through the Wall Street Journal and pretty much trying to get, what's really going on here? Because, recent reporting from the Wall Street Journal indicates that Iran is attempting to export crude oil to China by rail to circumvent a U.S. naval blockade of its ports. This move is described as an extreme measure, both of necessity and as seaborne exports have reportedly collapsed roughly 80% because of the blockade in mid-April 2026. Now, let's see. Purpose. The rail route is intended to delay a domestic infrastructure crisis caused by a massive buildup of unsold oil that has nearly filled Iran's available storage capacity. Now, routes. The rail infrastructure connects to Tehran to Chinese trade hubs such as Zwan and Yuan. The overland journey through Kazakhstan and Turkmenistan takes approximately 15 days, significantly faster than the 30 to 40 days typically for sea voyages. Oh, shit, they can get it faster. But there's challenges, though. Analysts note that the rail transportation is far less cost-effective and efficient than seaborne tankers. There are concerns that China's teapot refineries, which operate on thin margins, may be unwilling to absorb the higher transit costs associated with rail shipment. So, there's that. Now let's go to broader context. Before the blockade, Iran was exporting around 2 million barrels of crude oil daily. Following the enforcement of the blockade on April 13th, 2026, loadings reportedly fell to roughly, 567,000 barrels. All right. And strategic ties. The rail initiative is part of a broader look to the East policy and a $400 billion economic pact between the two nations aimed to reduce reliance on Western control maritime.